Okay, so I'm gonna show you the process of how I drill the hole in the bottom of these ornaments. Okay, so there's 5 strips. So we're good to go on the brown glass. Okay, so all 4 of them are done. I really like how the brown one turned out. So in today's video, we're gonna start at the very beginning and make 4 Christmas mosaic wall art pieces which feature a glittered deer buck bust. Let's get to it. Welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Julie. And on this channel, we talk about tips, tricks, tools, adhesives, materials, and specific mosaic projects, all to shorten your learning curve when it comes to creating mosaic art. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing. I'm so excited about this video. I'm finally making some mosaics that I've had the materials for over 10 years. Can you relate? So not only am I excited about making these mosaics, but also I filmed this video in a different way, in a different style, and I'll talk more about that in a minute because your feedback will be vital. Okay, so back to the ornament. Maybe you have a special ornament that was given to you by somebody you love or care for, or you just have a store-bought ornament that you love and you want to bring attention to it, or a family heirloom that you would like to memorialize or highlight or show a spotlight on, basically, then you're gonna love today's video. So the project that I'll share in today's video is one that you can use regardless of the meaning behind your special ornament. Basically, we're going to be creating a mosaic backdrop to enhance your ornament. Okay, so now you may look at the materials I'm going to be using today and you may think, wow, Julie's a hunter? No, I'm not a hunter. The wall art that I'm going to be showing you how to make today was inspired by a couple things. The first being the Country Bear Jamboree at the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. Now, I remember going to Walt Disney World many times with my family and always making sure that we went to the Country Bear Jamboree where these talking animal heads were on the walls having a good old time. And I also interned at Disney World, so I am a Disney girl at heart. Another inspiration for me was a castle that I stayed at in Ireland called Ballynahinch. It's in the Connemara region. And when I was there, I visited their restaurant, although I think it was more like a pub, and the vibe in that place was so at home to me. It just had a really cozy, warm vibe. I could imagine people going out during the day and, you know, maybe they were deer spotting, obviously sheep spotting, being in Ireland, but that after being out in a long day, they would come back, they would sit in the pub, they would be exhausted, they would order food and drink and just sort of melt in their chair and feel at home. But I'm trying to recreate the vibes that I recall, the memories that I recall when going to the Country Bear Jamboree and Ballynahinch Castle in Ireland. Now, regarding the filming style of the video that you're going to see today, it is different from my usual. So if you normally haven't been on here with one of my videos, the style you'll see today is totally different than how I normally film my tutorials. And so you may or may not notice a difference. But just to give you a heads up, I filmed the video in real time, meaning as I was doing each step of the process, I was talking to you. And so you're going to get a lot more behind the scenes as to why I made the decisions I made. Maybe something happened along the way and I call your attention to it, or you see it in real time. So it's definitely a rare behind the scenes type of film. You'll get extra commentary from me, and you'll also see a little more of a realistic timeline as far as how long it takes me to create the mosaics. Now, obviously it's not totally realistic. Otherwise this video would be hours and hours. But as you can see from the time in this video, it is going to be longer than my usual tutorials. And so this is why. And while you're sitting there watching this video, I hope that you get the feeling that we could be sitting at a table across from each other working on our mosaic projects. We're just trying things different. Just this one time, especially if you don't like it, but we're just trying different things to see if maybe you like a different style. So in today's video, we're going to start at the very, very beginning and make 4 Christmas mosaic wall art pieces which feature a glittered deer buck bust. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Okay, now that I've pulled everything out of the bag that I have been gathering and planning to use and work with regarding these ornaments, let me bring you up to speed on what I've done so far. So these are just regular wood plaques that most likely I picked up at a craft store. And what would make this project easier for me is if I used plaques that had straight edges. Like even this scallop is, I mean, it's better than nothing. But this is going to be a little not so fun to work with. So we'll see about that. But this one is definitely going to be easier. But anyways, so I've prepped, and if you aren't sure how to prep wood substrates, I will link some videos down below that show you how to prep a wood substrate. But I've prepped the substrate and I've painted both sides black. I pre-drilled a hole in the middle, which is how I'm going to secure the ornament to the center of this plaque. It still needs to be signed. I still need to figure out what is the hanger situation going to be. I've pre-drilled some holes there, but I don't remember what I was going to do for the hanger. So I do need to figure out the hanger situation before moving too far ahead here. And I just went ahead and cut off the price tags of the deer stag ornaments. The hooks are still in there. They are glued in there, so they are there to stay, but I really don't find it too distracting. So I'm going to leave them in. I'm not going to force it because I don't want to knock off any more of the glitter that are on them. So yeah, I'm just going to leave in those hooks. That's fine. Now in the bottom, I did drill a hole. Okay, I drilled a hole and I'm going to have to figure out how do I want this to be adhered. I want to do more than just glue. I would like to put a screw through there. I don't think a nail is going to do it. I really think it needs to be a screw. Want to secure it before tiling. So that is another thing I need to figure out. The bag, just to give you a little behind the scenes or something, if you've been collecting ornaments, this just goes for anything, whether it's this or whatever, and you keep your glittered ornaments in a separate bag or box or tissue, save the little pieces of glitter, because glitter always comes off your ornaments, right? Save that glitter. So I've got the bag with the glitter in it because, like I'm noticing on this little dude's head here, he's just missing a little bit of glitter around the hook. I'll go back in and I can add in a little bit of the glitter from the bag. I'll just use a little bit of weld bond and I can just, you know, zhuzh them up a little bit. So anyways, that's totally off the topic, but that's another reason why I'm working on a separate piece of paper, because I know I'm going to lose some glitter in this process. And so at some point I can just pull this up and, you know, put the excess glitter back in the plastic bag that I have here, full of all the glitter. And then I've got even more glitter to fill in some of the gaps and areas here that are missing a little bit of glitter. So anyways, this is what I'm working with right now. So my first order of business is, how am I going to secure this? Yes, I'm going to include glue, but I also need to figure out, is it going to be a screw or a nail? And then also the hanging situation. I need to include a hanger. If it's going to be like wire or a ribbon, I need to figure that out. And then they all need to be signed, right? Because we always sign our work. They need to be signed. And then I need to seal my signature in between there. So they need to be signed. So it sounds like we have 3 orders of business right now before I can get started with the tiling. And you did see that I pulled out some black stained glass. So I had obviously cut strips of black stained glass. I also want to do a different color. So I think a couple of these will have black stained glass back behind the deer, and I'm going to add something to it right here. But there's another color. So let me do a little thinking here, see what I got, see what I think is going to work, and then we'll come back and make some decisions on those 3 items that we just discussed. Okay, so I'm going to show you the process of how I drill the hole in the bottom of these ornaments. Now, these ornaments are resin. This is not going to work, let's say, if your ornaments are glass, because they're going to be much more delicate. But these are resin. They're going to be able to take the drill bit going into them. And as you can see, I've already done one. I did drill a hole in the bottom of these years ago, and I'm thinking that the hole needs to be deeper in order for me to put the screw or nail or whatever it is that I'm going to put through the back into them to hold them to the board, to the wood. So I'm definitely thinking I need to go deeper with the hole. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to show you how I do it. This is called a drill press. This is so much easier doing it with a drill press as opposed to a drill where you're sort of, you know, going all around. But this is so much easier because you turn the drill bit up and down just by moving the wheel, and you can go super slow. So I'm going to show you that process right now. Okay, so all of the deer heads, should I call them deer heads, deer stag? They now have a much deeper hole. So now I need to decide, like I had this picture hanging kit, and so that's what I'm using just as sort of a guide. But I really think I need a longer, this isn't even a screw. I guess it's sort of a fancy nail, but I need longer than this. So I'm going to go through my stash of stuff here. I know I have a box of nails, and I'm like, what? Right here. Right here. I don't think those are going to do the trick though. I mean, ideally a screw would be good, but these are all too short. Anyways, let me go through this box and I will get back to you. Okay, so next I'm just going to put a little sawtooth hanger on each of these. And so I just need to make sure I can find 4 of the little ones. Anyone? Bueller, Fry? Okay, there we go. They're not all the same. I don't care. It's all good. And then they each need 2 of these little guys. They don't have to be matchy-matchy, because who's going to turn it over and say, oh, nails aren't the same, but I like for them to be matchy-matchy. So that's that. So I'm going to sign my name. They need to be sealed one more time. You want to seal in your signature. And then I will move on. Once the sealer is dry, I will move on and install the hooks on the back. Okay, so I've signed them, and while I'm waiting for my signature to dry, I did go in and I can see that I used a glossy paint. So I haven't actually painted sealer over the black paint. I actually used a glossy paint. So that's good to know, because I will use a glossy sealer when this dries. But what I did was I went ahead and just went over the areas of exposed. There was just a little bit of exposed wood, so I just went over them. No big deal. Nobody's going to turn it over and look at it, but I'll know it's there, so I just went ahead and did that. And so now I'm going to let these sit for, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to paint glossy sealer over the backs and let that sit and dry before I turn it over and start with the actual tiling. Okay, it's been a little longer than 45 minutes to an hour, like I said, but these are totally dry. And now I'm ready to just paint a coat of sealer. This is wax paper. I like to use wax paper when working with things like weld bond or stuff like varnish, because it just doesn't stick to it. This is my favorite brand of sealer. This is a gloss version. There's also a matte version that I really like, but this is the one. I will link it below for you. So I'm just going to paint these. It's just going to take one coat and let them dry. And then tomorrow, when I come back in the studio to work, everything will be ready for me to start tiling. And I'm not concerned about this side, because I'm going to be tiling on that side. As you can see, when I did paint, I did paint a little bit there because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do tile-wise, but now that I know I'm not going to be using any transparent or semi-transparent tile, I'm not even going to worry about it. So I'm just painting a nice coat over. Now this is the back of the, you're probably wondering, what are these that I'm making? It just occurred to me. I'm thinking these are like wall hangings. I think they're going to be too heavy to be an ornament. I think that they will be wall art. And because there's going to be a lot going on, I think that it can hold its own as wall art. And that's that. So you know, I previously drilled some holes in here. I'm going to obviously cover those up on this side. This is the side I'm tiling on. But on this side, I'm not going to worry about those. If they bother you, if this should ever happen to you with your mosaics, I you could fill them in, which I've done. You can fill them in with, you know, for instance, this is wood. I would fill them in with wood sealer and then go back over it. But I'm not going to worry about it because more than likely I'm going to keep one of these and I'm going to give the other ones away. And so I'm not going to worry about it. If I were selling these in my online shop, then sure, I would consider, you know, finishing that off, but I'm not going to worry about it. And I love that marker that I sign my name with because it, as long as I give it enough time to dry, it does not smudge. It's good stuff. I like it. I just make sure that, you know, all the bubbles are gone, or, you know, if I've got any kind of unattractive brush strokes, that I just sort of go over them, and that looks great. Boop. I'm just going to let them thoroughly dry for a day. It's not necessary that you let them dry that long. I would think a couple hours would be fine, and then you could flip them over and start tiling on the other side. But I'm just always very cautious. So I'm going to let them sit here and dry for a whole day, and then I'll come back and I'll get started with the tiling. I'm so excited. But here's how they look. And I do love the sheen of the glossy sealer. I do like that. I think it's very appropriate for the holidays. A little more, you know, shiny and fancy. So here they are. Kind of boring right now, but we're going to give them a new life. I want to do a brown version, and I found this brown glass in my stash, which to me kind of looks like wood. We'll be creative here. I'm going to snag one of these black strips of stained glass that I previously cut, and I'm going to match the size. I don't know if you've ever seen my cutting grid, but I'm going to, looks like I cut it pretty much the width of an opening on the cutting grid. So I'm going to cut these down, but I'm going to try one of these. Just one, we'll see. And I'm using this end of the stained glass instead of this one because this end looks a little foggy. Just doesn't look, the colors don't look as robust. And I'm going to cut this off after each one. Okay, so there's 5 strips. So we're good to go on the brown glass. So I'm going to be putting the hooks in the back. And I'm just going to do a quick measure. Doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to put the hook on the back about, what am I doing? I'm going to put the hook about, I don't know, I guess about 1/2 inch down from the top, and I'm looking for the middle. I'm going to say this is probably about 3.5, which means the center here is right around there. And I'm just going to take one of these hooks and I'm going to eyeball it, trying to get it in the center, of, you know, where I put the where I put the dot. Now, these nails are thicker than these plaques, and I'll show you how we're going to handle that. But it is, you know, if you don't want to deal with that, you can certainly use a thicker plaque. I was just trying to use what I have. Now I am going to put the tip of the nails in a little weld bond. I'm going to run that through a little bit of weld bond just because I usually do that. And it's just going to give it a little extra staying power. That is what I mean. These are needle nose pliers. So there's a little bit of welt bond. And I'm just going to put it in the hole. And I'm just going to get it started. Okay, I'm just trying to keep it as straight as possible. So I haven't gone all the way through yet. And I'm going to do the same exact thing. Adjust the hook if you have to. Okay, I'm going to do the same exact thing. Trying to hold it as high up as possible, or as straight as possible. Okay, and then I'll come to a point where I'm like, okay, I don't need the needle nose pliers anymore. Okay, so like I said, the nails are they coming through yet? Okay, so they're not coming through yet. So I'm going to finish off hammering in the nails with this hanging off the table. Okay. All right. Now, you see how I have nails coming out? All right. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take wire cutters and I'm going to cut these off. Okay, you may have heard that, but what I did was I moved it over the garbage can and turned it over just because these are sort of projectile. Okay, I'm going to do the other one now. Okay, so it's not perfectly flat. I could file it, but I'm going to see where the pieces of stained glass fall because there may be a chance that these fall into the grout line and I don't have to worry about them anyways. But for right now, we've got a sturdy hook on the back and I'm going to get going with the other ones. Okay, all of the plaques have a hook on the back, and so I'm going to get started. It is a little, you know, no longer level, but I'm going to get started with cutting and placing the stained glass. I'm just going to pull a couple pieces to start. And as you can see, one side is a little wavy in texture and the other side is much more smooth. And so if you have glass, if you're working with tesserae like that, you just want to keep that into your consideration as you're placing and cutting your glass, that if you're going to go wavy, then you keep it all wavy. If you're going to go with smooth, you keep it all smooth. If you don't care, then you don't care. It's okay. But you just want to keep that in mind as you are cutting and placing your tesserae and trying to come up with a plan. Okay, so I have, because I'm dealing with dark glass, I have a metallic permanent marker, which I always use so that I can see what I've marked on my glass. And ideally, because I've got this arch here, I would love for the piece of glass to start up here and curve down like that, as opposed to placing it in some sort of weird way. Now, I eyeball this stuff. I don't, usually, I shouldn't say I don't always, but am eyeballing it as I draw what I think is going to be the curve. And I'm just going by what I see here to what I see here. And obviously I can adjust once I've cut the tesserae and I've placed it. I can adjust with the grinder, the electric grinder. So I'd rather not cut enough, not score enough rather, than to take too much off and got to start over. But I'm going to try this again. And this time I'm going to use my wheeled glass nippers instead. And I'm just going to take a little bit off. And I mean just a little. And I'm just taking a little bit off. I'm going to smooth it with the grinder, but I want to see if I'm sort of, I think that is feeling good as far as, I'm going to grind this and I'll be right back. So I have been working on this just a little bit, trying to decide on glass placement and how many strips of glass I'm going to use, and I think I'm just going to use 4 strips of glass, and I'm going to not put glass obviously over the opening in the middle where the nail is going to come through, but also I'm going to space things so that the nail that's coming through from the hook is going to be in the grout line, so it won't even matter. I want to have a nice wide grout line because I'm going to do something special with the grout. And so I want it to be more prominent. So I think that this will actually be even better. And I can accommodate the nails coming through. You know, one way you can eliminate some of these problems or situations, challenges that I'm having is, you know, use a thicker substrate. If you don't like that you're having to cut special cuts with the glass, then, you know, I could have used a square or rectangle piece of wood. I'm adding a lot more work to my mosaic by having to make special cuts. I personally don't care, but if that's not appealing, you know, there are workarounds that you can do to make your life easier. I'm just choosing to do things the way I'm choosing to do things, and that's the beauty of this being my mosaic, is I can make the rules. So this shape of wood is going to be easier than the other one that has the scalloped edge, and I realize that, and that's just how life goes. I will survive. All right. I think I'm going to grind a little bit down on one side, but this is pretty good. And I'm just going to keep on cutting the glass and laying it down, and then I can glue it down. Okay, so I have cut all of my glass. I'm not super jazzed about this piece. I feel like it's a little short, but I'm going to work with it. So I am going to be using weld bond. Okay, I'm just going to get everything on here. Make sure that the adhesive is under there. And then I'm going to just slide them around a little bit. Create a little friction so that they stay in place. And like I said, this is a white glue that dries clear. So all of the white that you see here will dry clear. I'm doing strips of glass to resemble paneling. And for those of you who are familiar with paneling, I grew up in the 70s, and I remember one of our childhood homes having paneling, and it's just one of those things, like I said in the introduction, that this project or these projects are inspired by just the Country Bear Jamboree at Disney World and that castle I stayed in Ireland. It's just reminiscent of that, and having wood on the walls or paneling on the walls. So it wasn't just, you know, there was no drywall. It was paneling. It was wood. It was that. And so this looks good. I'm going to just get the glue out of the hole there. And so I'm happy with this. Not happy with this guy, but I'm happy with this. And I'm just going to get some of that out. I'm happy with this, and I'm just going to let it dry. Sit and dry. Going to move on to the next one. But I'm happy with that. I'm just going to leave it right there. So I'm getting started with this next sort of scalloped edged substrate. And I'm just trying to, definitely an electric glass grinder is going to be your friend when it comes to a shape like this, if you're trying to do something like this. But I'm just going to go over these little areas where I think the glass grinder can help me out, or where I'm going to need to score the glass. Or, you know, may even nip, I can nip those corners and then go back over them with the grinder. I mean, I could even go in there a little bit. Okay, and a little bit here. Smoothed. This needs to be more smoothed. All right, I'm going to take this over to the glass grinder and see what I can do. Okay, so I have been working away, and as you can see, I have cut the scalloped sides, and I really like how they turned out. The rest of this is just, there is a little bit of a curve wave with the bottoms of this, but it looks like it's gonna, you know, be pretty straightforward, with just like a little bit of going in with the glass grinder. The glass grinder on a project like this is key because of the waves. It really helps out. And I'm actually going to try to cut this just with my nippers. Oh, you got greedy, Julie. Shoot. That may be too short. Oh. Okay. You lucked out, Julie. You lucked out. In fact, that little side needs to be gone over with the grinder. Okay, I have been working on this. I'm happy with it. I wanted to show you just one little thing that I did, which was I did take out a little notch in this piece to accommodate the nail that is going to be coming up. You're not going to see this because the deer stag head will be over it, but I just wanted to show you what I did, that it just opens that little area up. And I'm going to glue these down and space them out accordingly and get started with the next one. This one came together so quickly, I guess because I had just cut the other one with this scalloped edge, so I remembered what I had done, but it came together very quick. This is another thing that I like about using Weld Bond for a project like this is I can get them in place and then just sort of move them around a little bit if I don't like where they're at or I need to adjust. It's super easy to adjust. But yeah, I mean, I think I may have spent 15 minutes cutting this glass. Cutting, grinding, adjusting, like it just came together very quickly. And then I just have one more to do, and I'm going to use brown glass, like real paneling. These are like going to be fancy deer head, you know, but I'm going to do one that's more like Country Bear Jamboree and more like the castle in Ireland. So a little more casual, but we're going to call it like rustic fancy. When I've got glass like this where it's got a design to it, I want to make sure that I'm pulling in all the colors. Like I don't want one of these strips to be all light color. And I also want to think about, like there's one strip here that really doesn't have these sort of caramelly as much of it. It's a little more, you know, just down at one end. So if I only need 4 pieces of glass, do I want to use this one at all? Whereas these 4 look a little more in the same family. I don't know. Wait a minute. This one seems lighter out of all of them. I think I'm going to do that. Okay, so all 4 of them are done. I really like how the brown one turned out, how my cutting was for the brown one. So I might be keeping this one. We'll see. They're all done. This one was done about less than an hour ago. But I'm just going to let them sit here and dry a little bit longer. And then I think I'm going to install the nails. I want these to be in place and dry, and I'm going to grout around them. But I will show you that. But for now, I'm just going to let these sit here and dry for an hour or so. And then I will install the nails and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I'm not going to use Weld Bond to do that. And I'll explain why. Okay, I'm at the point where I can put the nail in the opening. I'm going to do that with some pre-mixed THINSET. If you don't have THINSET, you know, I could always use epoxy sculpt or silicone, but I'm going to use this. I've got it. You know, I don't want it to go bad. And I really think that this is going to do the best for me regarding filling the hole, keeping the nail upright and in position. And I'm just going to fill the hole. Wipe off the excess. Whoops. Okay. Going to stick the nail through. Clean off the nail, although that's no big deal. And I'm going to let them sit here for at least 24 hours before I move on to the next step. Okay, I just wanted to show that each of these nails are solid. Like, they are not moving. You know, the THINSET is a cement-based adhesive, so they are solid. I also want to show you what I did. I just used some painter's tape, which is painter's tape. Normally you'd put it on the wall to have a nice clean line when painting. I use it a lot in mosaics, but I covered up the hook that's on the back of each of these. I just don't want to get THINSET. I'm sorry, I just don't want to get grout into or back behind the hook. So I just covered it up. It'll stay put. It'll be fine. Okay, I finally came up with a grout color that I really like. As you can see, I want a dark brown, so I started with this dark brown. I made it and didn't really, it's too red. It's too red, so I didn't like that. So I thought, well, maybe I should just go with black. Maybe I should just go with a black grout. And I don't like that either. So I went back to the drawing board. I did use my grout recipe card, and I developed a new recipe, and I'm loving it. This is exactly what I wanted. A, you know, chocolate, deep chocolate brown. So if you're curious how to create a specific color of grout or THINSET, or you want to know about some cool things you can do with grout and THINSET for your mosaic work, I will include a playlist down below in the description. If you would like me to do a video where I talk about how I develop an actual recipe, let me know in the comments. I will also link my recipe card down in the description as well. But this is absolutely perfect. I love this color. I'm so glad that I wrote down the recipe, because I will definitely be recreating this again. And yeah, I did not buy this chocolate brown grout. I made it. So that's pretty cool. And now I'm ready to grout. Now obviously I've got to be very careful because I have a nail sticking up through there, but I'm just going to grout around it and it'll be fine. Now obviously this is a quick project to grout. I am just going in clockwise and counterclockwise motions, pushing the grout into the openings, into the grout line in between the pieces of stained glass. I should also mention that down below in the description, in the grout and THINSET playlist will also be a video on how to mix up grout and THINSET, in case you're curious about that. And so you know, like I said, this is a pretty quick project to grout. And I also want to make sure that there is ample buildup of the grout along the area where the grout line is exposed in between the pieces of stained glass. So I want to make sure that those areas have ample grout. Okay, and I'm also making sure that I'm getting around the nail area, but it's not super important because it's going to be hidden by the deer head, so it's just not super important. But I think I removed a little too much there. So I'm just doing clockwise, counterclockwise motions, pushing the grout into the area, making sure that the grout is built up at the ends of each piece of stained glass as well. You just want the height of the grout to be the same consistently all the way through, or all the way across on your stained glass. And I might be putting it on a little thicker, but that's okay because this is the only one that's going to have this color of grout. So I'm just going over the ends, sort of putting it into place and not rubbing too much. I'm just sort of getting it in place, and I'm just going to let it dry like that for a little bit, as you'll see. Okay, this side needs some grout down here at the end. Obviously, things are not looking perfect right now, which is fine. It's just a big old mess, and that is perfect. This is looking good, so I'm just going to let it sit here and dry for a little bit. Let's say probably about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll come back and clean it all off. Okay, so this has been sitting here for about 15 minutes. I can still see that there's a little bit of moisture, but I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning off the grout. And I'm going to start with just trying to clean the grout off that is on the stained glass. So I'm going to try to avoid the grout line because it is such a wide grout line, and I really don't want to remove any of that grout. But I don't want to pull off or pull out any of the grout that's in that grout line. So as you can see, normally I would go in clockwise, counterclockwise motions, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to disturb any of the grout line. And I should have said back when I was mixing up the grout that I used sanded grout. And the reason I did that was I have such a wide grout line. Unsanded grout would not be ideal for the width of this grout line. And I think in that playlist that I was talking about a little earlier, in fact, I'm pretty sure, there is a video that I did recently where I talk about why you would use sanded grout as opposed to unsanded grout. And I gave some scenarios on why you would use one over the other in certain circumstances. So, okay, so this is looking good. And I'm just gonna, I love that chocolate brown grout. Oof, love it. That is exactly what I wanted. Last one. Okay, so that is all of them, and I'm just going to go back over. Now obviously I haven't gone over the grout line like I was saying, and so in some areas it looks a little higher up than the stained glass, and I'm just going through here and pushing it down. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just pushing it down into the open area. Not really spreading it around, just pushing it down, making sure that it's totally filling in that area. Okay. And I'm just going to let that sit for a few minutes longer. And now I'm going to go around the outside because I don't want grout in this area here. So I'm just going to go over this. And you know, I am sort of thinking that I might actually paint this a dark brown instead of the black that it is. I'm kind of thinking that would look cool. And I'm basically just rubbing back and forth, trying to get off the excess grout that's on the actual substrate. And it is giving me a hard time. But never fear, we've always got solutions, right? Always. I can see that's a little stubborn. So I'm going to take just a popsicle stick and I'm just going to go along the edge. I think that's the one I first cleaned. I'd rather it be like this than too wet and just coming off and pulling, like, you know, some of the grout off from in between the grout line. I would much rather it be like this, where I've got to kind of work at it. Okay, and I don't know, I hope you can see that it is coming off. Okay, and so I just want to protect the grout that's at the ends. So what this also does when I have grout that comes up to the edge of the stained glass, so that you are helping to eliminate some of those sharp corners or sharp edges of the glass. You know, if it helps, you can always hold your finger there just to make sure you don't remove any of the grout that's in between your glass. I am loving how this is looking. Okay, so I had gone and pushed down a few minutes ago. I pushed down the grout, and now I'm just going to go over it and smooth it a little bit, and I see that some drying has taken place. So I'm actually just going to go over it with my fingers now, lightly smoothing things. This one is kind of overgrown, and I think I just removed too much there. I can see it, but I'm just going to lightly go over it so that the grout is at the height of the glass that's next to it. And also, by going over it just a little bit, it just gives it a nice finished look as opposed to being pressed down. Kind of like working with clay. If you've ever worked with epoxy sculpt or Sculpey, you know, you do want to kind of remove those fingerprints and whatnot, indentations and whatnot. I'm just going to let this sit and dry for at least 24 hours before I move on to the next step. As equally excited about grouting these three because I'm gonna be using, don't even know if you can see it, look at that, glitter grout, additive, very exciting. I did do a whole video on mixing in or using the different types of glitter into your grout and the pros and cons, and so I will include a link to that video down below in the description as well. But yeah, we're gonna really zhuzh up these even more, these wall arts, with glitter grout additive, and I'm so excited. I think this is going to be like chef's kiss. So I have glitter everywhere now on my work table. I don't know if you can see it all, but it's like all over here. And I don't even think the camera is picking up on all of the little pieces of glitter, but you'll see it. So I'm doing exactly, or I'm grouting rather, exactly as I did with the first one, with the brown one. I am trying to go in clockwise, counterclockwise motions, getting the grout into the grout line, trying to disperse it and keep it in the grout line. I want the grout line to be at the same height as the stained glass. I'm gonna have glitter in the studio for a while. That's how it goes, but it's so cool. And I should also say that I'm not like pressing down hard. I don't want to pull the grout out of that grout line because it is such a big grout line. It is a bit more exposed, so to speak. So I'm just trying to lightly push things into the grout line, but also get it dispersed and not pull it out. Oh, I'm loving the glitter. I'm loving the glitter. Yes. Yes, I am. Okay. And then remember now, I'm gonna go over the edges to make sure that I've got a nice clean edge where the grout line meets with the stained glass. Try to get that a little more clean, finished off. I like that. Okay, over here, I'm just sort of pushing things into place, lightly removing any grout that I may need to remove. And can you tell the glitter on there? Maybe a little. I'm not so concerned about getting the nail cleaned off. Like there's stuff on there. It's no big deal because I'm going to be putting the deer head over that with some adhesive, and so it doesn't matter to me. All right. Now, because I grouted 3 of these, I'm not going to wait 10 to 15 minutes to start cleaning off. I'm going to take a shorter period of time before I start cleaning things off. All right, I'm going to give it 5 to 7 more minutes, and then I'll come back and clean it off. I just realized that I didn't have the mic on when I was just doing the grouting. So my apologies. Hopefully the camera picked up stuff. You can't even see the glitter right now, but wow, there is a lot of it. So as it dries, you'll see it. All right, I'm going to carefully start cleaning these off. Again, I'm just rubbing back and forth. I'm not doing clockwise, counterclockwise motions on this. Wow, look at that contrast. Yeah, baby. Yeah, I like it. Being real careful not to touch the grout if possible. If possible. It's like a tuxedo. I love it. I love it. Okay, and I'm just going over the edges. You see how I'm going to need to paint no matter what. No matter what I was thinking. I will definitely need to paint again. And I should say that as I'm holding this, I am holding it on one of the strips of stained glass as opposed to putting my hand on the grout line. I'm just allowing that grout line to dry without getting disturbed. Oh, I love it. I love it. Awesome. What a great feeling when you work on a mosaic and it's exactly what you envision. Like, I can't wait to get these things constructed with the deer heads. Oh my gosh. Okay, and I'm just doing the same thing, making sure that I clean off all of the grout from the stained glass. Trying to do that without disturbing the grout line. Okay, and you just want to make sure that all of the edges of the stained glass are exposed. I'll go back over this. I'm just going to give it a little more time to dry now that it's been cleaned off. Last one. You know, I use stained glass. You could use any material type. It doesn't have to be just, you know, what I used. It could be anything. You could use vitreous glass. You could use broken plates. Yeah, I just saw that chunk of grout get pushed out, so I'll have to fill that back in. But, you know, I didn't include horizontal breaks in the tesserae in the stained glass. But I could have, you know, had another grout line here, grout line here, grout line here. I didn't want that. Despite the fact that, yes, this is a mosaic, I really want well, you'll see what I'm going to do with these, but I really wanted the deer heads or the stag heads. I need to look that up before this video comes out. What are they called? I think you would call it a stag. The dude. Stud head instead of stag head. Anyways, I want those to kind of be the centerpiece or the highlight, the main focus, as opposed to my mosaic. I want my mosaic to sort of blend in the background as if it was the wall. I mean, how often do we see these things hanging in bars and restaurants and, you know, wherever? And, you know, you're not looking at the wall it's hanging on, you're looking at the thing on the wall, but the wall does contribute to your overall experience of looking at it on the wall. And so that's what I want my mosaic background to be. I want it to be part of the overall experience and not a distraction. But after all, you know, this video is all about how to repurpose and incorporate store-bought ornaments into your mosaics. And so this is just a simple way for me to repurpose these ornaments. And I mean, I gotta be honest, I don't have a whole lot of Christmas wall art. I'm lacking in that department. So I'm excited about this little wall art here that I'm making. I'm excited. And of course you want to make sure that you get everything cleaned off, because you don't want a grout haze to develop. I don't know. I'm thinking this might be the one that I keep for me. All right, I'm going to let these sit here for a few minutes, because I'm going to show you something I like to do after I've grouted my pieces. Okay, so all the mosaics have been sitting here drying for a little bit, and something I like to do is I like to take an old paintbrush or chip brush, and I just like to lightly go over things, because it's going to remove any sort of grout dust. I'm just very lightly going over stuff. And I don't know if you can see down here that there is some dust. When you're grouting, you should definitely have a dust mask on. Very gentle. I'm also, as I'm handling it, not touching the grout line. Oh, I just love them. Absolutely love that glitter. So cute. Okay, and now I'm gonna let them sit here and dry for at least 24, if possible 48 hours, before I move on to the next step of actually constructing them and putting them together. I've posted to social media asking for help in coming up with a decision on how to finish these off. But in the meantime, I am going to just paint over these again. I don't normally like to paint after I have grouted, but I'm just going to paint again, just to make them look a little fresher. Kind of weird how the grout scratched it up so bad. I'm normally able to clean them off really well, the untiled, ungrouted areas, but that just wasn't the case this time. So I'm just going to paint over these again, give them a fresh look, being very careful not to hit the grout. I just don't like painted grout. I don't like that look. It's just me. If you don't mind, that's fine. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm just trying to avoid it. And I can see that I'm definitely going to need to do more than one coat. This is a different color than what I had before, so we're going with it. I think it looks nice though with the caramelly colors going on. All right, so I'm just going to let that sit and dry. Start with the black ones. I am doing gloss again. Look how much better that looks. Wow. So much better. Wow, 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 wow. So much better. Nice and clean. So I'm just going to do the others, and I'll show you what they look like when I'm done. Okay, so here they are, all cleaned up. Fresh coat of paint. And I'm just going to let them sit here. I'm actually not digging this, not liking this color. So I'm going to wait till it dries, and I may go back over it with a different color. So, but the black ones look good. The black glossy look good. And so I'm just going to let them sit here and dry, probably for at least a day. I'm waiting to hear back from what folks have to say on social media. So that's where we're at. Okay, here is the day, the moment where I get to check these out. They have been sitting here longer than 24 to 48 hours. I would say it's been more like 4 days maybe. So here's the first one. I need to take the tape off the back. And I am loving it. Super, super cute. As you can see, this still moves, but the deer head is solidly on there. Solidly on there. But I think that's an adorable little wall art. Just really, really cute. I'm thrilled with how it turned out. You can see the glitter in the grout. See if I can get it. It's very subtle, but it's there. You can definitely see it more in person, but super cute. I am thrilled with how this turned out. I love it. I think I said I wanted this one to be the one that I kept for me, but when I was talking to my mom about them, she saw my video on social media and she definitely said she wanted one with a wreath. So I'm going to let her pick out which one she wants first. If you remember, I did 2 of them with a wreath. This is the second one. And so, and I know that she has a lot of brown woods in her house. So she might want this one. Who knows? But this one also, the wreath does move. So I didn't cement that down or adhere that, you know, glue that down. But the deer is, or the stag is firmly in place. I will take off the tape on the hook on the back. Super cute. I'm loving it. Definitely giving a lodge feel. Rustic Christmas vibes. I love it. Absolutely thrilled with how it worked out. Just exactly what I had envisioned. So Mom, you can pick out one of these right here. Let me know which one you want. All right, moving on. Both of these are the same, and I'm going to embellish them a little bit. So I'm just going to do a red bow. Somebody did suggest maybe finding like a little pair of glasses or a monocle and like a men's tie to hang down. I loved all of those ideas, but I'm going to go with what I have because you guys know I do try to encourage you all to use what you have first. And I do like the red ribbon. So you see why I would want to use maybe a silk bow or silk fabric rather. Using a silk, I'm going to have to maybe take a curling iron to this to get it to curl down. But you get the idea. You get the idea. Super cute. I am going to look for a piece of silk, I think, because this is okay. And this doesn't seem to want to stay, so if you're in that sort of situation as well, you could just put a little bit of weld bond back behind the knot just to get it to stay. And what I might do is see how it looks in the morning, see how I feel about it. I do really like the contrast. I do really like that. I think that's cute. The last one is this guy here. Hello, good morning. Little cutie. Okay, so I found these little Christmas lights that are on, oh, they call it a bulb garland. And I thought they were really cute. They came in a different color, a few different color combinations, but I thought they were cute and that maybe I could just tie it here and string it and tie it over here so that they sort of hang in the middle there. Who knows? It may work, it may not work, but we're all about experimenting. And it's not going to take much, but I just want to sort of wrap it around. I may even glue it on there. And then, so how many colors are on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 colors. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it. And I should also mention that when you take this off, it is sort of top heavy. So you just want to be careful because it is, you know, it does naturally want to go over because there's so much weight on, you know, pulling it downwards. So you just want to make sure you have a firm hold of it. And so here's what I'm thinking, and it looks like I'll need to glue it and sort of come back to it. There is a kink where it was wrapped around the cardboard. So I'm just going over it with my fingernail and my finger, just sorting that out a little bit, straightening it out. Okay, so that works. Yeah, so that is my thought, was to just sort of wrap it around and allow it to kind of droop down a little bit. What do we think about that? Is that cute? Should I wrap it around and come down more? Or, so that's number one. Or should I string that there and then I was going to say drape this around from the back. Okay, I came up with an idea, and I'm going to cut off one of those, and I'm going to cut off this, and it's going to give me 2 strings to tie together at the ends. Okay, I'm not kidding when I say I just spent 5 minutes trying to, I mean, look at this mess. Look at this mess. This is not going to be a permanent solution here. I do not like the way that looks, but we're playing, okay? This is for funsies here. We are playing. And I want to try to drape that one more time. I don't know, does it still need, I would love to hang some ornaments from there. That would be kind of cute. That would be kind of cute. But for right now, I don't know, I kind of like this the way it is. And then to find, I don't know that I like these here. I know they're just placed there. I don't think I like those. I think I would much rather have ornaments, some ornaments hanging just from like monofilament or whatever. ornaments hanging. I do like this, so I'm going to need to figure out a nicer looking knot back there. But I do like this, but I don't know. Some ornaments hanging would definitely make it fun. So anyways, just playing. And that's what I want you to do. I just want you to play with finishing them off. And it's not that you have to put anything on them when you're done. You know, I don't have to put any of these things on there, but I think it's fun. So there you go. And we're done! Oh my gosh, that was the quickest video ever. Although it was not. It was not. That was a long video, huh? Yeah. Long video. But I'm so happy with how the wall art turned out. I absolutely love them. And if you're anything like me where you've been collecting things and you're like, one day I am going to make a mosaic out of that. Yeah, do it. Absolutely do it. Going into that bin of stuff that I've been collecting and being able to pull these things out, what a great feeling. And to be, you know, done with it and for it to turn out the way I had envisioned, awesome, awesome. So do it. I encourage you to do it. I appreciate that you spend a little time with me today. A little more than usual, but I do appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. For more mosaic inspiration, check out one of these 2 videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.